Partition of India, 1947. Britain's careless exit and a million dead. Imagine waking up one morning to find that your homeland has been divided overnight, that your neighbors, friends, and even family are suddenly on the wrong side of a brand new border. Violence erupts on the streets. Trains packed with refugees arrive filled with corpses, and over 15 million people are forced to run for their lives. This was not a war between countries. It was the birth of two nations, India and Pakistan, in the violent summer of 1947. Today, we dive into one of the most painful and chaotic episodes in modern history, the Partition of India, a moment when Britain's rushed and careless withdrawal from its crown jewel led to bloodshed, mass displacement, and a refugee crisis that scarred the subcontinent forever. Welcome to Sands of History, where we bring you gripping tales from the past that shaped our world today. If you enjoy historical deep dives, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And check out the links in the description to help us financially support the channel so we can keep producing these stories. The road to partition. By the 1940s, British rule in India was crumbling. After nearly 2 centuries of colonial domination, India was demanding independence. The Indian National Congress, led by figures like Jawaharlal Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi, envisioned a unified, secular India. But the All India Muslim League, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, feared that Muslims would become a permanent minority under Hindu-majority rule. Jinnah began calling for a separate Muslim homeland, Pakistan. Tensions simmered through the 1930s and 1940s, fueled by riots, political deadlock, and mutual distrust between Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs. The British, exhausted after World War II, wanted out, fast. Instead of carefully managing a transition, they rushed the process. In June 1947, British Viceroy Lord Louis Mountbatten announced that Britain would leave by August 15, 1947, barely 2 months away. In this rushed timeframe, a border had to be drawn between the soon-to-be nations of India and Pakistan. And the task of dividing Punjab and Bengal, two of the most diverse and intertwined provinces, fell to Sir Cyril Radcliffe, a British lawyer who had never been to India before. Drawing the Radcliffe line. Radcliffe was given just 5 weeks to draw a boundary dividing roughly 88 million people across Punjab and Bengal, separating Hindu-majority and Muslim-majority areas. But religion wasn't the only factor. Economic, political, and geographic interests tangled the process. Cities, rivers, railways, and farmlands crisscrossed religious lines. How do you split a village, a family, a people? Radcliffe himself later said, "The time at my disposal was so short that I had no alternative but to come to decisions upon the materials in front of me." The boundary, later called the Radcliffe Line, was kept secret until just 2 days after independence, meaning people didn't know on which side of the border they'd end up until it was too late. A human catastrophe. As soon as the partition lines were revealed, chaos erupted. 15 million people, Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs, fled across the new borders, terrified of being a minority on the wrong side. Refugee columns stretched for miles, vulnerable to attacks. Entire trains packed with refugees arrived at stations filled with dead bodies. Villages were burned, women were abducted or assaulted, and thousands were slaughtered in a frenzy of communal violence. Historians estimate that over 1 million people died in the partition massacres. Talbot and Singh, 2009. Some put the figure even higher, but the true number remains uncertain. The role of the British. Many historians argue that Britain's rushed and careless exit was the match that lit the fire. Lord Mountbatten wanted to leave quickly, partly to avoid blame and partly due to Britain's post-war exhaustion. Urvashi Butalia, author of The Other Side of Silence, writes that partition violence was not an inevitable outcome. It was the product of political failures, hasty decisions, and colonial mismanagement. Even British military leaders at the time refused to deploy troops to manage the refugee flows, saying it was not their problem. As historian Yasmin Khan writes in The Great Partition, partition was delivered with speed and haste, and the human consequences were scarcely considered. Personal stories, pain and loss. Behind the numbers are personal tragedies. Amrita Pritam, a famous Punjabi poet, wrote haunting verses about the pain of partition, especially the atrocities in Punjab. Sadat Hassan Manto, a brilliant short story writer, captured the madness, absurdity, and cruelty of partition in stories like Toba Singh and Thanda Gosht. Millions of ordinary people were uprooted, losing homes, lands, family members, and entire communities. Partition didn't just draw a border. It carved wounds that still shape South Asia's politics, identity, and relations today. Legacy and aftermath. The two new nations were born into bitterness and hostility. Partition sowed the seeds for future wars, including the Kashmir conflict, the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War, and the ongoing India-Pakistan tensions. Even today, partition memories linger in family stories, art, literature, and political rhetoric. For many, it is not just history, it is living memory. And for Britain, partition is often seen as part of its colonial legacy, a reminder of how imperial powers can exit messily, leaving behind chaos. Conclusion. The Partition of India was one of the largest, bloodiest, and most traumatic mass migrations in human history. Over 1 million dead, 15 million displaced, and countless lives shattered. All the result of political failures, religious tensions, and a hurried colonial withdrawal. It reminds us that borders are not just lines on a map, they are scars on the lives of real people. Thank you for watching Sands of History, where we explore the events that shaped our world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to help us financially, check the links in the description. Your support helps us keep bringing these important stories to light. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed.